So there's the finished product.
We're gonna do a little hollow sculpting today. I'm gonna pull a point off of this 25 mil medium wall and let that cool down. And we'll do a little stringer application as well. I can see this being applicable for some of our life forms pieces. So to do this point on a larger piece of tubing, I am really trying to heat a couple inches at once and build in a little bit of heat, then come out of the flame and rest and pause, do a nice deep regulating breath, and then I can pull, straighten. I'm straightening as I am making little miniature adjustments as I pull, and keeping it taut as it sets up. And then I'm going to terminate here. And unfortunately, this battery on my microphone runs out really quick, and I hear this person's voice saying low battery over and over again. I'm like, am I hearing things? No, it's my lovely microphone. So we'll see how long it lasts me. All right. So this is the 16 by 2.5 sort of heavy wall, small to medium sized tubing. All right, that's my sign to to stop working with her, unfortunately. Yeah, there's a, I can turn that off. Right there's the charger. Okay, so first thing we're gonna do, this is a good thing to really do every time we're working with points. We're going to condense the bottom right there, give a little condensation. Because this is a nice thick point, but if this was in theory not so nice, or if it was weak or off center, all we have to do is we just heat right there, and we're gonna allow it to, we're gonna rotate as we hold it straight and make sure it's on center. And then we will have this be our handle that I already cut open. We're gonna turn this into a creature. So we're gonna do a little bit of a hybrid method of working with a hollow base that we're adding solid bits to. And that can be useful if you want to make a form that is a little bit on the bigger side. Maybe you don't feel like sculpting with 16mm rod. Or maybe you want to, practice shaping the animal with your breath, right? You can do, there's different sculpting techniques come into play that present themselves when you're working hollow. Doing a little puffing and heating and puffing and shaping, for example. So we got this point here. Now I want to review making a round bottom for you guys, because that's a really essential skill. And if you haven't done that really recently or at all, now's the time. We're going to heat the end here. I'm going to pull it off. I'm going to pull it so that it's on center. And we'll have a little nub there often. What we're going to do is we're going to heat the end there, and I'm just being really sensitive to heat that little nub and a little bit further down, even, and come out of the flame and just puff gently while turning. And we're going to we're looking for a bottom that is around the same diameter as the tube wall. I'm blowing really gently, puffing it out, and that's essentially how you make your round bottom. And you might need to do that a few times if you're having issues with that. But if you have this, whenever you're going to terminate a tube or you're melting off the point or something, you're going to have this nipply weirdness, right? And you can't blow an even bubble if you have the nipply weirdness on the end. That's going to blow out into an uneven spot, into a weird spot. You could have a cold spot, etc. So right now we have a round bottom with a very thick base. That's not going to blow out into an even bubble because it's too thick. So if we want it to be an even bubble, for example, if you were going to blow this out, we need to make that a little bit thinner. So I'm going to repeat the round bottom process. I'm going to do the kind of like winding on the fork spaghetti method that I like to do. We're going to heat that. I'm going to use just a clean rod. It's just ever so slightly warm. Because if I keep heating this, can you guys see how it's getting thicker and thicker? Even if I wanted to blow like a simple implosion setup, like a bubble for a hollow implosion, this is not going to blow into an even bubble. We need it to be uniform with the rest of the tube as close as possible. I'm going to heat that. I'm going to sort of wind the glass like a fork on the spaghetti, and I'm doing it straight on. Terminate. And I'm not just going to focus the heat right on that nipple nub. I'm going to try to heat that nipple nub, love that phrase, and the whole rest of that sort of shoulder. Do that a little bit. It's a little uneven now. I'm going to heat back down, then I puff. And that's where a lot of the evening out happens. It's okay if that takes a few goes, but I do want everyone to practice making round bottoms. If you're new to it, make a bunch. So I'm going to update Canvas with a technical assignment, but that's going to be to make like 5 round bottoms and then bubbles if we have time. All right, so I'm gonna turn this into like a horse-like shape. And we're gonna get our knife, our graphite paddle. When you're working with solid and hollow, you can use any combination of solid and hollow, right? It's just about imagining and considering how are we attaching these points and the forms together. And just doing that with some care. I'm going to get some solid rod here. And we're going to give ourselves kind of like a base landing pad to puff out to be the start of our transition from hollow to solid. So I'm puffing, I'm shaping, and that's allowing me to make that like a hot seal and also a strong connection. So you guys remember how last week I drew on the board a diagram of like the Dome of Doom? That's just what, if you're adding solid to hollow, you need to puff out that bit that you added on. If it goes in and becomes concave, like a divot on itself, that's where you're gonna run into difficulties no matter what the setup it really is. Now that we have that set up, we can do our solid sculpting. That could look like adding it like freehanding onto it, or it could look like making the head or whatever this form is separately and then hot sealing on. Yeah, I'm working pretty hot. That's just the way I like to work, especially when I'm like working solid. And then I can go in and do shaping with my graphite reamer. And I'm doing some solid sculpting here, so I'm using my inner flame. It's just small and sharp, and it's quite hot. You can tell by the hiss of the oxygen. That's the way I like to work when I'm working and doing like solid sculpting and building up mass like this. Basically as hot as if I was using my outer flame, but it's more focused, so I'm not heating too much at once. Just working additively here, which is sort of a lovely thing you can do with boro. It's like kind of like bit work. But if I notice I need to add on a little more glass, I'm just doing that, getting that whole section hot, and then like smoothing it out with my paddle John here. I'm gonna add some stringers for the eyes. I'm gonna hold the head underneath the flame, heat up my stringer a little bit, add it on, go through the flame to melt it on and terminate in the flame. Definitely look at a reference image for your actual creature. This is sort of like a horse hybrid, but you know, the eyes, now the thing about it, they're kind of more on the side of the head, and usually they're kind of like a hybrid of in the front and on the side. But again, like before I made this, I just looked at a picture. But if I was doing this a project, I would have it printed out and sketches in my sketchbook, because you really have to figure out what you're even trying to make, and what does if you're working from life, what does the actual horse, for example, look like actually. You're not going to make it look realistic if you don't know what it looks like. Now, we can do some puffing out for the body, and this is something you can do before adding on the head or at this point. But I'm just heating it, painting on some heat, like as if my torch is a paintbrush, and puffing out to give it more of a body, just so it doesn't look like a straight ass tube, straight from the box. Because that's very rare that you'll find an animal in nature that looks like a straight borosilicate tube, right? Okay, we can make our camel humps. Now, if you're doing a lot of shaping and stuff, you can hot seal a handle here so that you have support on the other end. Okay, we're gonna add on some sections for the body here. And let's say we puffed out the hump a little more than we wanted to. It looked a little bubbly. Real camel's humps aren't bubbly like that. It's really good example of an exercise to practice melting down a bubble that you blew out too much and trying to, you know, re-puff that out. You can always come back from a blown out bubble. It can be scary because it shrinks down really quickly, but it's definitely a good thing to practice. So we're melting that back down. The blown out part will always be a little skinnier. And now I'm going to heat not just the blown out part, but a little bit around it to try to melt down that shoulder. Let that set up. Huh?
Now it's a saddle.
What?
Now it's a saddle.
Yeah, it's a little saddle for the guy to sit. But you see how I'm able to do that and reshape it? You know, unless you blow it like paper thin, then just start over. But you're gonna make bubbles and you're gonna puff them out too much. But it's really great to practice melting them back down. We're gonna make some legs for our creature. Now this is going to be a little bit of like a pontetto / tubulation technique. And we'll look at like a couple sort of small variations on it. This is just how I like to make my hollow creatures. You can, especially if you're working larger, you can do hollow seals, right? Like prep some small tubing and puff that out. If I was making like a hollow octopus or something with long legs that I needed to be like really supportive, that's a nice thing to do. But let's do this to start. It's sort of an accessible way of going about it. And we're gonna heat a blob with our like 10mm-ish rod. I'm gonna heat that shoulder, like that little section there, and I'm gonna just puff that out a little bit, just like that. That's what I'm always talking about to avoid the concave. We just don't want it going in, and we want to have a nice, smooth, hot seal, thick to thin, and then we can go crazy on the rest of it. And now we could solid sculpt the legs, we could make them separately, we could add them on to this sort of upper leg area. So I'm heating this connection point, I'm getting it all hot, I'm gonna come out of the flame. Let it set up. If you're creating movement in your creature, which a lot of you will want to do, you want to think about that before you honestly start making it. Like this neck just happens to be kind of looking to the side, which I wasn't honestly thinking about when I was making it, but it's actually, I'm like really into it. But it's something that you have to have intentionality for. So you have a plan, but having just a little bit of movement in your creature is going to do a lot for the overall composition. Because if you think about it, maybe a taxidermied animal will look like perfectly like symmetrical, but in the wild that's very rare. You guys know what I mean? Having a little movement and knowing like, all right, where are the legs going to bend, etc., etc. So this is a purely solid to hollow example. So I wanted to show you the setup. If you wanted to make like a hollow shark body and make the fin solid, you could absolutely do that. Now let's do a more pontetto type leg, which is my kind of signature method. Pontetto is just like an Italian word that comes from like the hot shop. It's similar to a tubulation in some ways, but basically the essence is heating up a section and blowing it out into more of a point. Let's do that for this leg here. I'm gonna spot heat the shoulder where I'm gonna puff out the leg. I'm gonna heat my solid mass, nice and hot. We're gonna heat both. They're both sort of, this is like gathering or condensing down a little bit. Come out of the flame, puff. Combination of puffing and pulling. I'm kind of doing both, responding as needed. So this is like, this leg here is like completely hollow. You can see, but it's necessary to add that extra glass on, because even though this is thick while tubing, if I were to do that without adding glass, you could do it if you want really delicate legs, but the more material you add, the more you're able to puff out and sculpt that way. I really love it. It's very immediate. It feels really fluid and flowy. And now this is just going to become a hybrid creature, which is fine with me. Let's puff out that tummy a little bit before we add on. And I'm being strategic. That tummy I want to make just a little bit rounder. I'm doing it now. But I want to keep the area that I'm going to attach the solid to, I want to keep that thick. I don't want to puff that out too much, because there won't be really anything there. And you can do this with color too. Let's say you wanted to like create a sea urchin or something with colorful spikes. This could be a colored rod, and then you could really add some lovely colored accents to, if you have a clear tube. It adds a lot, just a little bit of color here or there. It really does. Even just the smallest amount really adds something. Got a sort of a thicker, I blew it out a little more because I wanted it to be like that muscular hind leg. It's got, this baby's got gams here. And if you're making a specific creature, look at a photo of their feet. What do their feet even look like, right? They don't need to be hyper realistic, but just having a sense of the way the foot is put together. Can do a lot for the overall gestalt of the piece. That's a phrase I like to use a lot. Gestalt. Does anyone know what that means? Gestalt. G-E-S-T-A-L-T. Forget. It's French. Say it again. G-E-S-A-L-T. G-E-S-A-L-T. Gestalt. Yeah, I like cannot spell, and I definitely cannot spell German or French or whatever. It's basically, it's a great thing to think about in artwork. It's just the overall. It's about the overall, what all the parts are doing in combination with one another. So I'm not really getting bogged down on that one little toe, but it's just suggesting what all these things coming together do to suggest an overall form. So I just added a little bit separately for the leg there. All right, let's do the back leg. Now, I'm being quite careful as I'm puffing for the way I do it. I'll puff and pull, and I'm looking and seeing how the glass is responding. It gets a little bit thin, not so thin ideally that like, you know, you can hear how thin it is. Not so thin that like it's gonna pop itself. So it's about responding. And if you do it with, if you have a blow hose that you want to hook up to your point, that's a great John to do. That's a great thing to do. Because you can really see even better. I want more mass down there. Now I can heat the solid rod as much as I want and add to it if needed. So here's what we're looking at right now. We have this one leg is solid up the front, and you can kind of see how it looks different from the rest. Kind of has a little bit less flowiness, a little less like voluminousness. So you can play with what works for you. But I like this because I don't know, it's useful for a lot of things. We're gonna make this kind of like a guy sitting like that. It's sort of starting to give like kangaroo for me. So I'm gonna make some adjustments. I'm gonna adjust. Now the good thing about this solid leg that I did, I can heat that solid glass and adjust it, right? I can't so easily heat the bubbles, the blown out bit, that's kind of one and done. If I go and reheat that, it's gonna shrink, right? It's gonna kind of lose its form. So just pros and cons of all the different methods. The puffing out pontetto tech is great for I'm imbuing the gesture as I create it. And this, if I hate this, I can pull it off and remake it however I want. But let's just have it kind of being like, you know how I feel like kangaroos are always like, you want to fight? I don't know. Huh? It's kind of like, you mean on the animal? we'll be like, I'm gonna go make some Maria. Now it looks really adorable and demure. Well, just think about what is the gesture of your creatures, right? Actually, I love it. Okay. It's got to have some type of ears or something. I'm just like the type of person, I really don't do a lot of sculpting from life, but when I do, again, pictures, because I'm like, I don't know where the ears go. That's why sketchbook is so essential, so you can kind of learn from my mistake. Their ears, I feel like for kangaroos, are kind of on the top of the head. Whatever. It's gonna be so cute. And I just put little dots for eyes. I think doing a little bit of a stringer for an eye, even if it's minimalist, it does a lot to give you an entry point into having a relationship with the animal as a living creature. Because you can, it's the windows to the soul, guys. All right, now if we want to add wings or anything, this is where we would do that. Even for little details, let's say you want to make like a hollow fish. This is, what is this? This is purple lollipop. I got it last time gas was at Corning, 2016, I think. So I don't even know, man, if it's, I'm sure it's probably still available, but it's, so what you see is what you get. It's not going to change, so that's kind of nice.
So we're adding
You know, yeah, I guess so. Yeah, of course. Why wouldn't we? This is going to be I just want to show kind of adding whatever the shape is. Maybe this is a shark fin or whatever, but I'm striping on and I'm puffing, right? It's simple, but it's essential. I'm going to do both for the wings, and I'll just whip these out real quick because it just feels like it's missing something. For me, I don't really have a problem with it, but if you add a little flair, people are going to think, wow, I love that, let me buy it. So yeah, this color doesn't change at all, which is really nice, because with a lot of purples they do, well, at least the ones I like to work with. Okay, now it's starting to look like a semi-respectable, something you might see in a fountain downtown Center City, Philadelphia. But even if you're trying to make something on your hollow form that's not like quite such an appendage like a wing or something, like let's say you want to like puff out, like maybe you're trying to make a hammerhead shark and you wanted the head to be hollow. It's sort of the same idea, adding a little bit of glass, getting that glob hot, puffing it, doing a little puffing, a little shaping with your paddle, etc. So here's our, it's like a bit of a Pegasus. Yep, it's definitely what I was always going for. Now I'm gonna flame anneal this bad boy because mainly the area I'm most concerned about are the thick to thin, especially the thickest to the thinnest. So specifically the wings I just put on, this neck area where the solid neck goes onto the solid head goes onto the sort of hollow form of the body. And I would flame anneal this for a bit and pop it in the kiln. Why not? Now, if we're trying to, maybe this is a form that gets attached onto a larger sculpture. If it's going to get attached onto a larger sculpture, I would think about that before at this stage, or even before this stage. Maybe it means adding a post, a nice hot seal little post onto the belly, or whatever. Whatever that is, you want to do that before you take it off the handle, right? because that handle that's the last thing to happen. And you can close up a hollow form, right? As long as you just don't heat it anymore afterwards. But I'm not concerned about like putting a hollow closed form in the kiln. I've never had a piece break. Some people are scared, like it's a vacuum. It's not really that bad of a vacuum. It just has to be the last time you touch it. If you're concerned, maybe you might want to be able to have the option to work with it a little bit more, or you don't want to worry about it at all like being closed, then you can strategically pop a little tiny hole in your guide, in your form. Or some people who make like Christmas ornaments, just by part of the process is they pop a little hole. So if you want to do that, you're going to get like sort of the smallest, sharpest little flame you can without blowing your hand torch out. Yes! Okay. And do it in strategic space. Usually I make it like, it ends up being the butthole. So we'll kind of make a butthole kind of thing. And you're gonna heat and pop, and like generally just do that. This is the one time we're gonna heat with the hand torch and pop it with the flame directly on it, because we're just trying to make a little hole, not a bubble. We have a little hole here, and now we can heat this and it's not going to create a vacuum. So to finish this up, I like to use my claw grabbers. If you don't have claw grabbers, I recommend getting a pair. If you don't have them, you can heat them up in the kiln. You can anneal this, let it bench cool, and then hold it in your hands. Or you can make a hot steel handle. This head is a perfect thing to make a hot steel handle too, because it's nice and solid. I would never do a hot steel handle on anything that was hollow that was delicate at all, or a punty on anything hollow that's delicate at all. Like if you're really nice, you can do it, but often it's very, very easy to just crack it. It's so easy to crack it. So I try to avoid doing punties on my hollow stuff, personally. But these inside out claw grabbers are really fantastic. They interact with, they kind of go around the form of the shape in a nice way. And now if I want to bend this point, it's very delicate and it's very straight. I'm going to give a little bend to it, and since it's hollow, I'm going to do a really gentle flame. I'm turning up my gas. I don't have my outer oxygen on. It's a pretty long handled flame. And that's going to allow me to, it's like when we're doing our curves, right? We're going to paint on some heat, never too hot in any one spot, so we can really have control over that. And it's just getting hot enough to glow orange a little bit. And then we'll terminate however long you need it to be. This I can do because I popped that little butthole. If I didn't pop the butthole, honestly I could still do this, but I would end it here. That's our... It's actually kind of cute. Yeah, because I have my butthole. How many times can I say butthole in one demo, guys? Let's see. I think I said it like 4 times.
That's the nipple.
The nipple, and I said nipple a bunch too. Body positivity. No shame. It's funny because the buttholes are useful, but the nipples in this context are usually not useful. That's a thinker. We're gonna add a little bit of flare here onto our tail. You know, with this striping on process, I probably said this last time, but there's always like, I just always pull off the stringer and do a little bit of, there's always a tiny bit of waste, and that's okay with me because this is hot. I don't feel like putting it down and heating up my tweezers to, or taking up my tweezers and pulling off the end. I just let that little stringer draw and melt down. So we're gonna just do one more little beta fish. I know, yeah. This is, it just looks good though. It's, you know, it is kind of I do like it for my fish, but I don't know. I like it. I like it for fancy, what do you call it? Like fantastical creature tails. And the white is soupy, so it's kind of nice to do at the end. So. What do you say? Purple. Those are, yeah. Purple and white. They're cool. They're cool colors. It's kind of unusual, purple and white for high school colors. I don't know. I love purple. It's a good color. Any questions or any thoughts or reflections? If you have, sometimes when I'm doing something like this, like let's say I accidentally mess something up and I need to puff out a little area. Give me a sec. Do you guys know what a Sophietta is from the Hot Shop? Yeah. It's basically a tool, if you're not familiar, it's like a little conical tool that allows you to like puff through it to blow into a hole. You can make like a faux Sophietta out of just like a piece of scrap point like this. This was the point that I started on. You can cut off the tip like that. And like, if I need to, I'll find that little hole and I can use that to like heat it and like blow in. Do you know what I'm saying? Like it's a little janky, but it actually works. Whatever, like you can bend a 90-degree, make a fake Sophietta. That way it's not always over, even if you have the hole, even if it's off the point. So that's my fun little creature that I enjoy making. That hopefully I think it can apply to some of your creatures you're making, like you can make a shark or a wolf or a dog in much a similar way. But that's what we've got right now. And I'll take it off the claws. Hopefully I flame nailed it enough. I may not have. Okay. Take a pic. Here, let me rotate it. Ooh. Oh, I didn't show the people at home. There you go, people at home. There you go. And look, it's going to be part of my family. Oh, there we go. That is, so there's the finished product.